Hi, I'm Mona Vand, and we are at EWG's office. I'm sitting here with Dr. Homer Sway. I'm so excited to get into a conversation about beauty, cosmetics, and the ingredients that go into it.
Thanks, Mona. I'm Homer Sway. I'm a Senior Vice President here at the Healthy Living Science Group with EWG. I come with 30 years of experience in the personal care industry, and I've got a PhD in chemical engineering. I'm happy to have this conversation. It's going to be great.
Okay, Homer, I have so many questions. I think all of us do, so I feel lucky to be able to ask you these today. But I think we should start with just the initial topic of clean beauty, because obviously this is not only a buzz term, but it is something that's on the rise. But then there's also a lot of talk on what is clean beauty. Is there regulation to it? There's a lot of talk of greenwashing, and I know a lot of people don't necessarily know what greenwashing is. So I'd love to talk about that, because I know I get frustrated sometimes when I go to a store and they label things clean and non-toxic, and because I am educated, I look and I'm like, this isn't clean. So let's just get into this topic.
I think there are two aspects of clean beauty. One is the claim clean beauty. I remember when that word was first introduced, it was introduced by a retailer. So what the retailer was sharing with us was brands were confusing consumers with too many free of claims, free of formaldehyde, free of parabens, free of sulfates. 6
free, like the shampoos, right?
7 free, 8 free, 9 free, 10
yeah.
free. And so what they decided to do was change it to one claim, clean beauty. And that worked. That created a $7 billion industry, clean beauty, just that phrase. But there's another side of clean beauty too. It's how formulators like us think about clean beauty. It is always about a pursuit of better ingredients, better products, formulating for safer, right? And so that means it's not a destination, it's a journey. It's a continuous improvement on products. And I think for that, you really do need to applaud companies to go in that direction. But there's also the other side, the clean washing, the greenwashing that you mentioned, right? Greenwashing is the art of being vague. It's the science of perception or misperception or deception, right? So when used properly, it's fine, but when used to misguide, it becomes a problem. When you are presenting yourself and the data and substantiation doesn't support that. So, interestingly, the science that goes into that is similar to the science that supports ChatGPT. It's about asking all these different statements and trying to understand how people perceive those and picking the best ones, right? How that is able to perpetuate is because of the fragmented regulations that exist today. So FDA, as you know, oversees cosmetic personal care ingredients, right?
Yep.
But the claims are not part of FDA. They belong to FTC. All right, okay, so claims are over there, but natural and organic don't belong to FTC, they belong to USDA. So this strange,
The worlds are, it's tricky because,
yeah.
Go ahead.
And they don't communicate with each other very well. They don't coordinate very well. So the good news is, with all the litigation that's happening, they're becoming more and more careful when you make these claims. There's
a little bit of responsibility that comes with claiming something is clean or green.
Yeah.
Or we're getting there.
We're getting there.
We're getting there.
The natural and organic, that's already, they're very careful about making those claims now. I think the clean beauty and those will be the next ones that come as well. So
it sounds like companies had the right intention behind it, but then of course you have people who want to take advantage, like in most things, and then it makes it confusing for the consumer to look and say, so really when someone's at a retail store and they're looking for makeup or skincare and it says clean beauty or clean beauty section, they can't necessarily believe it, or can they? Like how do they just need to go on EWG Skin Deep and look up the ingredients?
That would be one way to do that,
Which takes work, but I do it.
One of the shortcomings is that brands are defining clean beauty all differently. There are no regulations yet on that space, so consumers do have to be a little careful on this claim. Ask questions, ask the brand questions, about what do you mean exactly. They should be fully transparent in how they define it, and you can make up your own decisions that way.
I think that's smart. I think talking to the brand, especially now in social media, you can DM the brand, you can reach out, and I also love knowing the founder's backstory.
that helps.
Because then I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, do I trust this person? Like, why did they create this product? I personally like it.
Yeah, much of that is, do I trust the company? Do I trust the people behind the company to make the right call for us, right?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So speaking of just regulations and like, what regulations are behind clean beauty, in terms of cosmetic law, this went completely unchanged for 80 years.
Right.
And then recently, a new bill was passed, MoCRA. So
Right.
can you explain what the bill passed, what went
Right.
into it, and...
So much of this, Mona, is about a realization that legal doesn't always mean safe. That gap is widening every year, and legal is falling behind. The U.S. legal is falling behind the rest of the world. So MoCRA, the Modernization of the Cosmetic Regulatory Act, it's a mouthful, right? It is FDA's attempt to catch up on the legal part, to catch up with the rest of the world. Okay, so what is MoCRA, right? Let me explain it this way. What does it mean? So for consumers, for the tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of consumers that are injured every year by personal care products, MoCRA represents hope that through mandatory adverse event reporting, that governments will be listening and their voices will be heard. For the 140 millions of Americans that have sensitive skin, MoCRA represents transparency, that through fragrance allergen labeling that citizens around the world already have, that they can manage their products correctly.
Okay.
And then for the 330 millions of Americans that use personal care products, I say MoCRA offers faith that through that companies will use the golden rule, first do no harm when they substantiate safety before the products go in the marketplace. It gives the FDA a lot more information, more than they have before. It changes the definition of adulterated and misbranded, and finally gives FDA the ability to do a mandatory recall authority. Still a lot is left on the table, but this represents a huge step forward, for personal care products in the U.S. Finally, we're catching up to the rest of the world.
So other countries are doing this, or other parts of the world have already been having this mandatory adverse effect?
Many of them already have this ability to do this.
Okay.
To have this information, to have the safety systems in place. In the U.S., we've been relying on a system of voluntary systems. It makes all of those mandatory now. Yeah.
And that's not just for new products, obviously. Now everyone has to follow this law.
It's for everything.
Everyone.
It's for all products, right?
Yeah.
Everything that's regulated under the cosmetics and personal care regulations under MoCRA.
That just reminded me a little bit. I used to work as a pharmacist, and I remember if a patient ever, let's say something wrong was dispensed or they had an interesting reaction, we had to log it and report it because we would have auditors come. So there was lots of regulations behind that. So it's nice that for over-the-counter stuff, a little bit different, but similar.
Finally, right?
Yeah, right?
Yeah, finally. They're all regulated under FDA. Finally, cosmetics is receiving some attention. Products you use on a daily basis are finally receiving some attention.
Yeah. One more question on that, because you're saying we are catching up with the rest of the world. I do find that a lot of people trust European products or food more than American. So do you think that's almost a safe assumption when I've heard even some girls say, I'm in France, so whatever I find at the beauty store is going to be fine. It's going to be better than what I'd find in America, which might not necessarily be fair, but what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I used to work for a company that sells to both marketplaces, right?
Okay.
The products are very similar. What is different between the two regulatory systems is the EU systems is more prescriptive. You can do this, but you cannot do that. And it sets a floor on safety. So that means the worst products are not in the marketplace in Europe. In the US, we don't have that system. We don't have a floor. Maybe MoCRA will uplift the floor. So that means in the US, the distribution, the variety of products is very different in the US. The very, very best products are here. They may not be available in the European marketplace.
Oh, okay.
But we also have the worst products also that are allowed here that won't be available in the EU marketplace. So that's what's happening between the two regulatory systems.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So maybe it's not like you're a little better off with the worst ingredients, but it's
Right.
not perfect by any means.
Right, right.
Okay. I think there's also a lot of discussion around if using clean products is even necessary.
Right.
I know I speak on clean a lot, and of course people are like, oh, relax, like just use whatever you want, and maybe people think it's being overboard. So how necessary do you think it is to use clean products every day? Do you think it's more just most of your products? Can you speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, I think it is important that we are careful about the ingredients and products that we use. So look, the way that safety is established is it's always done one ingredient at a time. Mm-hmm. If you're lucky, they're going to look at all the products using that one ingredient, but they don't really look at, we're not exposed to one ingredient at a time. We're exposed to a product, a mixture. The safety systems are still not developed to look at the mixture. All right, but not only that one product, but all the products we use in your home, more than personal care, your cleaning products, the other products you have in your home. The systems are not set up to look at all the exposures of all the products you use over a lifetime. So what happens over a lifetime, right? So this is a cumulative and aggregate discussion that most people are aware of. What most people are not aware of is that the way that safety is established is for perfect skin. No blemishes, no cuts. Who has perfect skin, right? We all have different predispositions, right? Mm-hmm. We're not all average. And so the safety systems are not set up for the outliers, and most of us will become outliers at some point in time. In that case, then, the only way we can safeguard ourselves is to educate ourselves on the ingredients, the products, and what goes into them, and constantly ask the brand questions. How did you establish safety? What does that mean exactly?
That one.
Have that
how
conversation.
did you? Because
Yeah.
it's up to them. Is it subjective how to establish safety?
Yes. In the U.S., they can do it differently, and we don't have guidance from the FDA just yet.
Wait,
on how
so
to do that.
brand by brand can say, we've established this as safe, but we don't question how they establish it as safe?
They can do it differently, and it's allowed. It's legally allowed. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's kind of
Strange,
scary.
right? Yeah.
Well, I mean,
right.
they could kind of make anything up if they're all able to do whatever they want, right?
Right. This goes back to our earlier conversation about the EU system. So this bottom side is no longer in the EU because they say this is safe, this is not safe. In the US, we can have a conversation about that.
So that's why it's really up to us to know
Correct.
each ingredient. Unfortunately, we have to do, I almost say like I find some products that are clean. I know that I like them because I don't have time to look through all these new products and why are there so many ingredients? Is that just how you have to formulate? I don't remember this from pharmacy school. There's always 20. I'm like, maybe if I had 3, I could just look them up. But there's so much to look into for each product.
The formulations are getting more and more complex all the time,
Okay.
right? Some of that is to push performance, but some of that is also try to differentiate between other brands. So it's kind of like
To be
marketing.
like, oh, we're not, they
Yeah.
patented this, but we added this one ingredient.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, exactly. But you're right. Given what we know, what's happening in the marketplace, consumers need to get educated, and that's what EWG is all about: empowering consumers, to live better lives.
yeah, I mean, I don't know a better resource. I go to it constantly, and I usually start, I have a method. I start from the bottom because usually that's where the preservatives are, I find. So,
Smart.
yeah, I'm like, if it already has a bad rating, I can just stop right there instead of starting at the top. So in your scientific opinion, if there was one or a few common ingredients that are used a lot that people should avoid, like maybe just give us a few that are like,
Yeah.
always avoid these if you're going to avoid anything.
Yeah, I think there are 2 groups we need to be careful about, right? One of the groups is what we call CMRs, carcinogens, mutagens, and reproductive toxins. So even in very, very small amounts, they can be a problem, right? And so some examples that your viewers might be familiar with is hair dyes. Lead acetate is an example of a CMR.
Hair dyes?
Hair dyes, yeah.
That's like going to get your hair colored?
Hair color, some of the hair color ones, yeah. Some of the nail products, toluene, and formaldehyde are still used in those products, unfortunately. And some of the fragrance components, lily aldehyde is an example, pulegone and myrcene are examples of CMRs. The other class is what we call endocrine chemicals, right? So you must have heard, the dose makes the poison. Of course it does. Mm-hmm. But sometimes the timing makes the poison, endocrine, right? So during certain times of your life, when you're developing and growing, when you're an infant and child, during adolescence, when you're going through puberty, during maternity, of course, and when you're getting older also, your body's in flux. Your hormones are in flux. So sometimes these chemicals can alter it a little bit and alter your metabolism, your biologic pathways. Some examples of endocrine are like bisphenols, BPA, you must have heard before.
BPA free.
Right.
I do have to ask about the hair dye because I feel like we're going to want to know.
Yeah.
I guess I assumed, I really try to live as clean as I can. And I like to look at it, it's like, let me reduce my toxic burden. I know I'm not going to live in a bubble, but the less amount of things that my body's fighting off at all times.
Yeah.
So I'm like, hair dye. I know I'm going to want to color my hair. If it's only on my head for 30 minutes, is that so bad? At least it's not something I'm spraying every day and it's like once a month. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think you'll be fine, you know.
Okay.
But the hairdresser needs to be careful, right? The salon workers need to be careful. The hair dye regulations in the U.S. have all been grandfathered. And that's a problem, right? So as science is developing, we should always look at those ingredients through a modern lens. And that doesn't seem to happen very easily. So that's the next thing. Let's talk about modernizing MoCRA but for hair dyes. You know?
Yeah, wait,
right.
How could a law get grandfathered? Like, that seems a little bit strange because, so there's never any way to challenge it after that?
Very difficult. So there's a class of dyes that we call coal tar dyes. These are dyes originally made from coal or mineral ingredients, but now can be made from petroleum ingredients. All of that entire class has been grandfathered. So it's very hard to relook at the safety of those ingredients today through a modern lens. That needs to be changed, obviously, right?
Yeah, I mean, we do the best we can, but it is, I think when you are aware of these laws that you think are protecting you, and then you realize they're not, it just opens your eyes, and you kind of can't unknow it.
Right. Legal doesn't always mean safe.
Right. That's the new catchphrase.
Right.
Yeah, it's good to remember. I mean, so for anyone who might feel overwhelmed, like, what do I do? Where do I start? How do I know what's safe? Like, what few things can they do? Like, what do you think is the most important to start with?
There are two areas that I call, they're privileged on your body. One of them is your eye. Your eye doesn't have a defense mechanism. All it can do is blink. The skin around your eye is very, very thin. So any products you use around your eye, be careful about, right? The other area that's privileged is your lung. All you can do is cough. It doesn't have a defense mechanism, right? So your lungs are really designed only to take in air and exhale carbon dioxide. So particulates through the lung is also not very good. You've heard of asbestos and other cause problems with the lung. So I would be very careful on those two types of categories. Anything you put around the eye, and anything the spray products that you might breathe. There's
perfumes, fragranced hair products.
Yeah, be careful about the sprays. Any kind of sprays you would be careful about. It might be fine, but take a closer look at the ingredients.
Yep.
There is a story many years ago in Japan. It's about the eye. And so consumers there, they don't eat wheat, but using these hydrolyzed wheat soap bars, they were developing gluten sensitivity. And it was only because they were washing their face. It was getting in their eye and getting into the system, they became gluten sensitive.
Wow.
Right, so just be careful around the eye area. Yeah.
Wow, that's so interesting. I feel like I've heard, I wouldn't think someone who's like, I'm gluten-free, but if it's in a product, I don't think they would think anything about it.
Right?
Right.
You think if you put it on your skin, it should be okay.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
I do like always sharing, because I come from a pharmacy background, and it's very Western medicine and very respected, right, in the medical field. There are medical creams that go on your skin, and we even learned to actually put it behind your ears for best absorption because the skin here is very thin.
Right.
So that's honestly makes a lot of sense, and now I'm never going to forget that. So maybe for everyone watching this, even if you're not going to switch all your clean products, maybe just your eye cream is even the most important.
Right.
Start there.
Oh my goodness, I even forgot about this area here. So
true, but most people aren't applying beauty products. I mean, we should be applying sunscreen everywhere, but this is a more common area, I would say, to apply. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. This is just one question about when you're on Skin Deep or on EWG. Sometimes I find it a little bit confusing to analyze the data. So iron oxides is one thing I'm confused on because it's in anything tinted, right? And it's actually really good sun protection. I remember a dermatologist teaching me that.
Right.
But they're rated differently. And then, so what are your thoughts on that when it gets a little bit confusing?
Yeah, I even find Skin Deep a little bit confusing myself, and I'm an expert. Look, we are trying to make it more user-friendly, as we learn more and more. Iron oxides, those are mostly pigments, right? And for the most part, they're fine. They'll stay on top of your skin. They don't do anything.
Okay.
The regulations don't have any restriction on particle size. So that means some of the iron oxides could be nano. And when it's small enough, they can go into your body, go into your lung, go into your eyes. Right?
Can you tell when it's nano based on the number after it, or no?
No, that's the problem. That's something we're working on as well, right?
Okay.
So what you saw in Skin Deep for that particular iron oxide, there has been some publications that some part of that is nano. And so that is why it's a call out on our databases for that one iron oxide. Not all of them, but there are a few of them that look that way.
Got it.
Yeah.
And then it gets so deep, and I just know a lot of people are not going to want to not wear their foundation or their tinted sunscreen. But you can see non-nano zinc oxide in sunscreen, but doesn't necessarily mean that the iron oxides are non-nano.
Right, and that's the type of communication we need to get in front of consumers, right? So if there are nano, Europe requires you label it as nano. We don't have that in the US just yet. Or the vice versa, that these are non-nano sunscreens or non-nano pigments. That's a mouthful. We don't have that yet either.
This actually leads me to another question I have. So I like to try to compromise with myself sometimes on going clean.
Yeah.
So for example, if I'm like, I know I'm going to wear foundation or tinted sunscreen at least a few days a week. I wear sunscreen every day. My skin's a little sensitive to the sun. I don't want premature wrinkles.
Yeah.
So maybe on the days that I'm home or because even at home I'm running errands, I wear a non-tinted one, for example. And so I'm getting a little less exposure to the iron oxides that could be nano. So my question is, sometimes some things are rated okay because they're in small amounts.
Right.
But if we're using it every day, doesn't that equal a large amount?
Right.
So how do you decipher that?
Right. So let me explain the background a little bit, right,
Okay.
for your viewers here. That discussion about small amounts over a lifetime, what is the tension between those two? Our bodies are amazing. We can heal ourselves in most situations. The problem that comes up is when our exposure rate is greater than our ability to handle that.
If we have slow detox pathways or something?
When the rate of exposure is higher than our ability to deal with it, to metabolize it, to excrete it, that becomes a problem. So even though that things are short-lived in our bodies, we stop and it'll go away, our bodies can fix itself. If we're getting those exposures daily, then our body can't handle that any longer. It's continuously there. Our bodies will try to fight back somehow. And those can cause diseases and inflammation and all types of other things.
Keeps accumulating.
Yeah, exactly.
Right,
exactly.
and your body can't catch up.
Exactly, yes.
Okay.
So in that case, maybe we do take a break, give our body a little bit of time to heal itself and then come back to it. Maybe Sunday we should just take a break,
Yeah.
from the products that we use. Let our body catch up a little bit. I don't think that's a bad idea, to be honest with you,
I used to do that. It wasn't even before I necessarily knew about clean, but I just intuitively was like, I just need a day.
There you go.
I don't want products. I
There
don't
you
want
go.
nothing on my skin.
Yeah.
And I think everyone, especially if there's anyone who wears products every day, and makeup and hair, you're just like, okay, I need a second to let my body breathe.
Give your body a break,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
to
exactly.
detox it out. And maybe even doing saunas or Epsom salt baths or things that help your body excrete more. I don't know. Sweating more. I know sweating is a natural form of detoxification.
Anything that will help your body metabolize, right?
Okay.
That will help.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I like
Yeah.
that. If there's anything that you could leave with people, like here's something to start with that would help them. The overwhelming question, like it can be a little overwhelming.
How many PhDs are out there? Even me with a PhD, sometimes I look at the label, it's hard for me to read it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm getting old, I can't even see it, it's so tiny. Look, I think that's the reason why EWG, our scientists, created Skin Deep. Free for everybody, makes it easier for folks to navigate. What I would recommend is use Skin Deep, it's free. but also compare it against some of the other databases out there too. If you see something in common, take that more seriously, right? Or they can get a PharmD or a PhD, we can teach them that way as well.
It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. But there's always that. Okay, thank you so much. I learned a lot. I feel like we might need a round 2 because I have more questions, but that was really insightful.
It was a pleasure, Mona. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you guys. Yeah.